welcome to the Battling Barrow and another crafting video. This week it's going to be something a bit different. I'm going to be making miniatures, nothing too detailed. These are going to be oozes and slimes. In dungeon crawls, particularly sort of Beckmead D&D, oozes and slimes are quite a common foe, so I thought I'd have a go at making some. I do already have some pre-made ones, which are... One of them is what we're going to be attempting to make and recreate, and that is, I got this, it's an old round Pathfinder one from, when is it, 1992. And I've painted it up to be a Ochre Jelly, so we're going to be making our own one of these. Another one I've already got is a gelatinous cube. This is from WizKids, so we're not going to be making those, but if you would be interested in me making one of these, if we can get this video to 1,000 views, not likes, views, just 1,000 people watching this, so share it around, and people in the comments say they're interested in seeing something like this made, we can have a go at making that, but that's for the future. For now, what we're going to be making is some grey oozes, like so. A few of these. We're going to be making the aforementioned Ochre Jelly, and we're going to be making our own version of it. Let's see, like that. We are going to be making some yellow mould, and finally we are going to be making a black pudding that can envelop a miniature. So if I get old poor Hugo over here, we can see that he's getting, put him into a base and he gets enveloped by it. As you can see, he's getting numbed by the black pudding. So yeah, we're gonna have a go at making some miniatures today, so let's get on with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is get these Renedra bases to use, some big ones and small ones. We're going to have a look through the monster manual just to get what base sizes for each slime. So black pudding is going to be the larger base. And just waiting for my cat to walk across. So yes, the black puddings will be these larger bases, and for the others, the grey ooze is medium, so it's going to go on the smaller base, and which will be these, and I'm going to make 4 of them. The Ochre Jelly is interesting. That's going to go on a custom base, which will cover in a minute, and what's not shown here is yellow mould, which will go on these larger bases here. But getting back to the Ochre Jelly, I already have a existing model that I use. This is from TSR, it's from like 92 I think. It's a TSR based model, so I'm going to make my Ochre Jelly is based on this, and it's going to be based in the same sort of fashion. So first up, I'm just going to undercoat the bases in black. Including the 4 larger bases. Then I'm going to dry brush them all in a sort of mid-tone grey. I guess if you use Citadel paints, this could be a Dawnstone. And likewise, I'm going to do the larger bases. Then I'm going to come in with a cat. Cheers, Elvis. Then I'm going to come in with a light grey. This is a acrylic paint called Urban Grey, and I'm also going to make sure I paint the edges in each of the greys as I do them. It's just going to be a heavier dry brush to make the details pop. Now for the grey ooze, I want to make a wall as seen here in the 5th edition rendition of it. So I want it to be, I'm going to make 4 different types, but this one I want to make a wall, so I'm just going to use this bit of foam, and I was just sort of getting the size, how big it should be. I'm just going to cut it and then cut it to size, and then use this texture roller from Green Stuff Wild just to put a brick pattern in front and back. You could always just score it in by hand if you don't have one of these. And now I'm going to use the getting quite popular on the channel now for me, the hot glue gun. For all the time I haven't used it, so I'm going to make 2 with walls, 2 without, and I also want to make this sort of slithering type of grey ooze. This is from the 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. It's probably my favourite sort of interpretation of it, so I'm going to make that. It's nice and simple. And this is from, I believe it's the 3rd edition, so I'm just making that, and then going back to the 5th edition version on the wall, just draping it around, and I'm just doing a 1 inspired by the 5th on the wall, a slightly smaller wall piece. But what I need to do is, once it's dry, I can go back in and add a bit more to bulk it up. And for the 3rd edition one, it has sort of tendrils, so I'm gonna, it's difficult to show this on camera, so I need to hold it upside down to let the glue, let gravity do its thing and pull the glue down to make little tendrils, but hopefully you can sort of just about see what's going on. And once they're done and dry, I'm going to come in with some paint. This is some grey contrast paint, because I don't want it to be totally opaque. I wanted a bit of translucency to it. So I'm going to come in with that and paint all of them in this grey contrast paint. Hopefully here you can see the tendrils on the 3rd edition version. I'm just going to paint the ones that are hanging over the wall. Now on to the yellow mould. This is how it's depicted in the 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. For this, I'm just going to get some old yellow paint. I believe this is Sunburst Yellow. It's a bit dry, which is perfect for what I want for it, but I'm just adding a bit of water to the mix. Then I'm going to come in with some PVA and some flock, which has yellow and splodges of green in it. And then I'm just going to mix all that up. This is a case of adding a bit of the flock at a time. You want to get a nice sort of paste to it, and you want it to be nice and bumpy and flocky, but you don't want too much to make it go unmanageable. Elvis is just walking into frame here just to see if I'm doing it right. So I'll just keep on adding a small bit of time, mixed up till I'm happy with the consistency. Once I am, it's just a case of using the coffee stirrer just to splodge it on, making it nice and slimy really. And there we are. Next up, the Ochre Jellies. This is the TSR model I'm using as inspiration. And I'm going to use some Fimo clay for this. I've used this on the channel a few times now. It's oven baked clay, so what I'm going to do is make a rough sort of shape. I'm not very skilled at using Fimo, so I'm just going to make a sort of splodge here, and then all I'm going to do is add to it with long tendrils, long snakes of clay to get the basic shape. I'm just going to build it up and up and up, trying to use the TSR one for inspiration. I'll just wrap snakes of clay around it just to get this really disgusting slimy thing going on. I will need to make so I'm going to have 2 large ones. When you kill an ochre jelly, they divide into 2 smaller ones, so I'm also going to make 4 smaller ochre jellies for when these get killed, these larger ones get killed. But for now I'm just There's no right or wrong with this, I just want to get something that looks somewhat similar to the original. And once I've made them all, I'm going to come in with a sculpting tool and just add a bit more detail and poke around before I bake them. And when they're done, I'm just going to put them on a oven-proof tray. And then I'm going to put them in the oven for about 30 minutes on about 180 degrees C. And once they've been in there for half hour and cooled down for about another half hour, they are solid to the touch. And so now what I can do is remove them from the tray, and I can attach them to a base using the hot glue gun. This is just 1mm chipboard. Just going to splodge it on there, and whilst I've got the hot glue gun, I can go around and add some more slime details onto it, which is, hot glue gun is perfect for this. Once the glue's dried, I can come in and undercoat it in black. Then I do a heavy overbrush using a colour called Verming Fur. This is an old Citadel colour, which I still use and love. I'm then going to come in with a heavy dry brush of bronzed flesh. And then going to paint the others by magic. Next, going to come in with this Orc Brown. This is based upon an old Citadel colour that's no longer available, but I believe it's sort of similar to this Zamzi Desert colour. You can see it's somewhat similar to this. If you want to use a modern equivalent, use that. And I'm just going to do a heavy dry brush of this. But first, I've got to pop the seal of the paint. I love these old pots. Yeah, it's just a case of doing a heavy dry brush. The colours underneath were just meant to be the slimy colours. This will be the main colour, so you want to make sure that most of it's covered in this, but if the Verming Fur and the bronze flesh poke through in places, that's good. Next up, I'm just going to paint the bases in a mid-tone grey. Thank you, Elvis. Glad you approve. And now we're going to move on to the black pudding. This is made from tinfoil, and it's going to be inspired by this existing model that you can buy from, I think it's Oozes, Marvellous Miniatures, WizKids. So I'm going to use the tinfoil to be able to hold onto a miniature. I'm going to use a glue gun, and I'm going to build it up a layer at a time. And as I get to it, I'm going to build some sort of tentacles sort of pulling out, so it's going to look similar to a slimy hand, I guess. But yeah, I'm just going to use the glue gun to build this up layer at a time, just constantly making sure I can still get the miniature in there so I can envelop it in the game if need be. And once I've done that, it's a case of using the glue gun to cover the tinfoil in glue, and also just giving it a quick layer at the bottom, just so it doesn't look like it's poking up through the ground kind of thing. And when you are doing the glue gun around the tinfoil, do a bit of a time and let it cool down, because otherwise you'll melt the previous glue and it will fall apart. So just do it a little bit at a time, let it cool down and add more glue, building up layers and layers of glue over it. and you'll get this nice slimy black pudding thing. Just make sure all the tinfoil is covered. And once you've done that, you can paint it black. And really, that's all there is to this this model. It's just painting it black. I guess if you wanted to, you could add some highlights of a darker grey, but I always find when it comes to black, if you do too many highlights of a dark grey, it ends up looking grey. So for this, I'm just leaving it black. And these are our models complete and painted, but they're not slimy enough yet, so I'm going to use some gloss varnish, clear gloss varnish. I'm just going to paint over all of the slimes in this, not the yellow molds, of course. One thing to note, I use a disposable brush for this because it's too much effort to clean over. So use an old brush that you don't no longer need or want. And then allow these to dry. And when they dry, they will look like this. Nice and shiny and slimy. These were a fun thing to do. I've wanted some slimes. All the old modules do call for slimes a lot, and I dare say modern ones do. And so I've enjoyed making these, and they're going to be really useful. Pleased with how the Ochre Jelly turned out. It's not too dissimilar to the TSR one, so I was pleased with that. Just like to say a big thank you for watching this video. Before we look at the end, glamour shots. If you could take time to sort of have a like of the video, subscribe, share it around to people who it might be of interest too. As I said, if we get this one to 1,000 views and people in interest, I'll have a go at making some gelatinous cubes. It's the yellow mold. This is nice and hard now. It looks great. Yeah, just having a quick look at these. There we go, camera, focus in. I like the texture, that the contrast of the yellow and green works really well for me, and even though it's sort of flat mold, it's a bit 3D-ish and bumpy. Really pleased with that. And these, yeah, thoroughly pleased with the black puddings. And I think I've worked out I've saved a ton of money by doing these, because these cost next to nothing. Scrap tinfoil for these, bit of flock, Fimo clay, which luckily I have laying around because my wife uses it. So I think 50p for all these models. Brilliant. I can live with that. Saves a ton of money. Yeah, but thank you for watching. Thank you to the patrons that have made all these crafting videos possible. You're all stars, and if you can like, share, subscribe and do all that standard YouTubey stuff, that'd be great. Right now, let's get on with the story. The teleporter activates. "We've made it," the wizard says. "Quick, the door over there. Let's get out of here." "Yellow mold, there's no time to fight. Run!" "What the dwarf says. "Grey ooze, we're gonna have to fight through this, lads." "More slime." "Ochre Jelly," the barbarian exclaims. "I'll take this." "What? Now there's two of them." "Okay, laddie, leave it to the dwarf to deal with this. That's one. That's two. That's how it's done." "Black puddings. We must fight our way through to get to the door and escape." "Ah, it's got me."